and welcome to this edition of the Property Pod. You're joined today by myself, Joe, and by Libby. It's just us two today. We're going to be discussing the Help to Buy scheme, in particular the loans that you can buy from the government. So without further ado, Libby's going to ask me a few questions. I'm hoping to be able to answer them well. So we'll go on and have a discussion. Again, if you are enjoying our podcast, please do go ahead and subscribe and like. Hopefully these are sounding far more professional now. We're recording them in the audio lab in Ipswich, not far from our head office. So without further ado, Libby, can you start the questions, please?
Certainly. So what actually is the Help to Buy scheme?
So the Help to Buy equity loan it's an initiative from the government that enables first-time buyers to come onto the property market. It allows the first-time buyer to borrow 20% outside of London, 40% inside London towards the price of their first home.
Mm-hmm.
It's for new builds only, so you don't have to buy a new build property, and the loan is interest free for 5 years. There's a couple of I can't think, I suppose, terms to that, is that it has to be your main resident, and obviously you all have to be first time buyers. So if you're buying as a couple, then you both have to be first time buyers. We do have that occasionally where people think just one person, but no, if you're a couple, you both have to be first time buyers.
Okay. And who is actually eligible for the scheme?
Yep, so it's first time buyers, it's exclusive for first time buyers. And again, to reiterate, if you are a couple, you must also be first time buyers, both of you.
And how does the scheme work?
So the scheme works by enabling you to borrow 20%, we'll say 20%, it is 40% in London, 20% of the value of the property that you're purchasing, so the new build you're purchasing. You will need a 5% deposit. I would always recommend having more because it gives you more options, especially as you're a first time buyer. You'll be surprised the amount of items you'll need that you haven't even considered yet. So it's always good having that extra pot of money, even if it doesn't go towards the house. It can certainly help you with monthly bills and just getting used to you having a property now. So you need to make sure that you can borrow the remainder 75%. So that obviously there you've got the 20% from the equity loan, and then you also have the 5% deposit. So again, if you're in London, that figure would then be 55%. So that's kind of like the main crutch of the scheme and what you'd need. As I said before, the interest rate is free for 5 years. However, after that 5 years, if you haven't paid it by way of remortgaging, you will end up paying interest, which starts off at 1.75 and increases after 8 years to 1.9.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to sort of take that in consideration. Most people will pay off the equity loan again with a remortgage, but that's kind of something you need to figure out with financial advisor or your mortgage broker.
And how can a first time buyer actually purchase a home through the scheme?
So you have to register on the Help to Buy agency website. So I can give you the details of that. It is help to buy agent free.org.uk. So we'll put this in the description. In London, instead of the free, it's the 2. So you put that into the search bar. If you just type in the Help to Buy agent Ipswich or Suffolk, Essex, depending on what location you're in, it will come up. But we will put the actual hyperlink in the description below.
And what are the advantages of the scheme?
So for me, I think the advantages would be that you're buying at a reduced cost. So typically new builds can be expensive, so you're buying it at a reduced cost. So therefore you're going to need less to deposit, less money to save.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the real benefits that I can see with this scheme. So it basically enables you to get onto the property ladder easier. As we sort of know, it's quite hard for first time buyers to get onto the property ladder. It means that you're going to be saving for less time, or you're going to need less money.
And what are the disadvantages of the scheme?
So it has to be a new build, which can come at a premium. The other thing is that the loan must be paid back. So it's not where you got the bonus from the ISA, and it was like almost like a grant or some subscription where you didn't have to pay it back. This is a loan. So it's really clear to make sure you understand that you do have to pay this back. It is a loan. So, and the other thing is, when you sell your property, you have to pay back a share of the increase. So for example, if your property's gone up 10% in value, you have to pay 10% extra on the loan amount you borrowed.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So I'm not going to do the maths. I'll get it wrong.
That's too much.
I'm not doing maths. But it is effectively, so if you've borrowed, if you say you've purchased a house for 200,000 and you got 20% of that, what would that be? I don't know. We'll round it up to say it's, I don't know, what would it, about 25,000. This could be completely wrong, as I said, not very good at maths. And then effectively you'd then put the 10% on top of that. So I'm not working out percentages in life. So that's the disadvantages for me would be those aspects.
And how long will the conveyancing process take?
With Attwells, the conveyancing process takes between 8 to 10 weeks, so we're considerably faster than the national average, which is because we're brilliant. I'm also very modest. So yeah, relatively quick process. If you're a first time buyer, you tend to be at the bottom of the chain effectively. But you know, it's always important to remember that it only moves as fast as the slowest person. I just realised that I used some real jargon there. A chain is effectively the people that have to buy a house in order for you to move. So if you're a first time buyer and you're buying a new build, you're unlikely to have a chain because no one will be in that property. It'll be an empty property. However, if you're a first time buyer, which doesn't apply to this scheme, what we're talking about, but just so you understand the term of the chain, if you're a first time buyer and you're buying a property that someone lives in, that person then has to buy a property or move into rented, and that's effectively a chain. And that could, you know, be 2, 3, 4 people long, so it all depends on that.
And can the property be redecorated or have any major changes done to it?
Yeah, so unlike some other schemes, effectively you own a home. You've taken out extra piece of credit, and you've taken out a loan from the government in effect, so you've got an extra burden of expense, but you own the property, so you can still renovate it, decorate it. It's not the same as a shared ownership. You own that property, you just have to make sure that you've got enough money to be able to pay back the loan.
Okay. And what happens when people want to sell their Help to Buy homes in the future?
So if you want to buy your if you want to sell your help to buy, you just need to make sure that you've paid back the loan. In terms and conditions, as I said, so it's the loan amount plus the 10 or whatever it's gone up by. I think we use 10% in our instance, but whatever it's gone up by, that percentage on top of the loan. So you need to make sure you've paid that back, and that's really it. There may be some paperwork if you're paying it off as you're moving out that your conveyancer will have to do, but your conveyancer will talk you through that. It's not I don't believe it's an added cost. I could be wrong, I don't think it is. It depends how much paperwork's involved, but it's a simple process. It's no different from if you're moving on normally. So you just have to factor in the fact that you will have to pay this loan back. It doesn't go with you can't carry it on to your next house.
Yeah. Okay, that's all from me today.
Excellent, well thank you for that. I feel like I rambled again. I always do this when it's just me. I'm so much better when we have guests. Anyway, thank you for your time. That's quite a short and sweet podcast for this week, but you know, some of others have been considerably more lengthier, so I hope you enjoyed this one anyway. Depending on what forum you're listening to this on, please do share, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.